Welcome back to today's Rebel's Edge, where a big move to the upside by Microsoft overcomes a big move of the same percentage to the downside out of Meta. Now, I wonder why that is. Well, Pete and I will break it down for you, as well as sports and a prediction market prediction that might surprise you on today's Rebel's Edge. Welcome back, folks. Great to have you here. We are Jon Najarian and Pete Najarian, and this is the Rebel's Edge. Jared producing it. Great job, Jared. And we've got a lot to cover, Pete, because we've got earnings. We've got one of the up-and-coming hedge fund guys that was absolutely explosive to the upside. Well, now he's much like that Taco Bell, explosive to the downside. And we're going to cover all of it for you right now. So let's start with macro. And Pete, global indices are higher. The Nasdaq is up over 2% today. And that's despite the fact that Meta is trading to the downside hard.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to cover that, but those are interesting stats, are they not, Pete?
They are interesting, and technology itself is up 5%, or it was up 5%. It's up still very close to that, 4.5%, 5%, we'll call it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the names that people were saying that they were selling off, well, they may have sold them off a little bit, but those are the same names that are absolutely stacking it up today. Seagate, Western Digital, and throw in a little SanDisk, and names like that, NBIS and CoreWeave. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's a pretty dang strong day for the Nasdaq, and a good bounce for the Nasdaq as well.
A little bit of a heartbeat, eh, Pete? Up, down, up, down, up, down. But the down might be over or pretty close to over. And we'll have a better explanation when we get to the Kospi, which is coming up right after prediction markets. Let's talk, Pete, about the VIX. So the Nasdaq rallies, the S&P rallies, what happens to the VIX?
The VIX gets slammed. The VIX got up, and it's got up there a couple of times. It gets to 20, doesn't seem to go very much past 20. When it does make those pops, it gets a little bit past. You can see it right there. But it is amazing how far it got hit, and so quickly, John. And we're talking about big moves to the downside. Now it's kind of evened out, and let's just call it just underneath. It's like 1850 last I looked. I think that's a little bit different right now. Maybe it has moved up to that, but either way, the VIX itself is down about 10% on the day, John. So pretty strong movement there for all the right reasons. We're seeing what's happening with the market, and we see what's happening still with many of the earnings that are still crushing it. And obviously, when we get around to Microsoft, we're going to be talking about what they actually did this past quarter. Not so bad, as it turns out.
Well, as far as prediction markets, Pete, this is a real head scratcher here because, if somebody wants to bet on the midterms or bet on a variety of political or other sorts of things, Polymarket's there for you. So is Kalshi. But this one on Polymarket really kind of strange, Pete, because whoever wants to bet on the next prime minister of Ethiopia. Some people, no doubt, some people, but $250 million worth of bets. I mean, I should have sent Jared that scene from The Wolf of Wall Street, Pete, where the now rest in peace Rob Reiner goes, 25,000 in sides? Sides? Did they cure cancer? He's like, yes, in fact, they did cure cancer. They did. $250 million worth of bets on who's going to be the next prime minister in Ethiopia. And look at the line. It's straight. It's not like, all of a sudden he came out of nowhere and he just jumps $250 million. I tell you what, Pete, this smacks to me of maybe money laundering or something. Because who the heck is betting $250 million. So in other words, $250 million have been bet on who the next prime minister of Ethiopia is going to be. And you can go back months and months and it hasn't changed hardly. So why all the money being bet on this? Any idea?
I got no idea. Sometimes you just got to be honest and you don't know the answer to a question. And then this is one of them. And I like that WTF that you added in there to this whole thing.
WTF.
I mean, honestly, you're right.
Well, let's dive into what has been driving the AI market to the downside, Pete, because we've talked about the heartbeat market. We've identified that, hey, as long as you're patient, don't buy them when they're up big, buy them when they're down big, because pretty soon, it might even be the very next session, they're right back to the upside, which is, of course, the case today. Well, I'll throw out a name, Pete. Leopold Aschenbrenner. This is a guy who was an AI infrastructure guy, and he figured out, you know what? I know so much about AI. I am going to start placing bets through my stock trading. And eventually, in 2024, he leaves OpenAI and he says, heck, I'm starting a hedge fund. The hedge fund grew to 45 billion. People said this guy absolutely knows, and or his AI agents, if you will, in quotes, can go out there and trade better, faster than anyone. Then tragedy struck. And that tragedy was the same thing that hit 1.2 million leveraged retail accounts in South Korea. Because this is a fact, folks, 1.2 million leveraged accounts in South Korea got margin calls as of July 13th. Well, here we are at the end of the month. If you take a look at how that's played out, you'll see that, and this is, by the way, from Goldman Sachs. This isn't like Zero Hedge or anything else. This is Goldman Sachs saying that these poor people were completely levered long in these names like SK Hynix and others, and they've been the ones that are being liquidated on a day-by-day basis. That's why their market's down 44%, biggest drop in its history.
Yeah.
Well, not in a single day, but over the course of a month, worst month ever. Well, if you let people take extraordinary leverage and they're wrong and they keep doubling down, and you've got this Leopold guy that's kind of the same way here in the United States, you're going to see some real damage. And that's why I say maybe, Pete, we are near the bottom of that AI swoon, because it was these margin accounts being liquidated. I'm sure there are Americans that were being liquidated as well, but 1.2 million Korean accounts being liquidated, no wonder it's down 8% a day, every single day since July 13th.
It's getting hammered. It's been a terrible week, month, couple months, whatever you want to go with, John. The last month, as far as I last looked, it was down as much as something north of 30 some odd percent or whatever it was. I mean, it's just been really, really horrific as they've been liquidating these accounts. And, and like you said, it's coming from pretty damn critical, somebody who's really got a lot of credit, I think, Goldman Sachs. So I look at that, I look at the total liquidation side of this whole thing, and man, these guys are absolutely getting just beaten like I've never seen before, unfortunately. And I only laugh because otherwise you'd cry, because these are real people, and a pretty decent percentage of all the South Koreans' adult population. It's over 3.5% or about 3.5%, something like that, John. So are they getting beat up? Oh, yeah, these guys are getting beat up. But as you said, by looking at that, at some point that ends, and that all of a sudden turns into something else to the upside.
Absolutely, because it's not, you've got Meta, and we'll get to that, Meta spending like crazy, Google spending like crazy. All of these data center plays, hyperscalers, whatever you want to call them, ramping up like crazy. You know who isn't? Apple. You know who's at all-time highs? Apple. You know who isn't? Let's see. Google. Taking a look at all of the players, if you will, Meta, that are spending, 100 billion, 200 billion in a quarter on this. So you really think that the companies that are selling that stuff are not doing well? I think they're doing really well. But anyway, let's talk about Microsoft, Pete.
Yeah.
Microsoft, the reason that the Nasdaq can be up 2% with Meta down 10% is the following. There are 7.4 billion shares of Microsoft. Let me say that again, 7.4 billion shares. So if you were to say, take 7.4 billion and multiply it by the price that Meta has, or rather that Microsoft has moved today, which is $59, you'll get that it is about $407 billion upside momentum for a capitalization-based index like the S&P. Meta only has about 2.5 billion shares, Pete. It's a lot, but that's why a 10% move there is nothing compared to the move in Microsoft. But the Microsoft move is extraordinary, right, Pete? Yeah,
we're talking 15+% or whatever, depending on the moment that you're looking at everything. But Microsoft, they beat on the earnings, they beat on their revenue. That was all really, really impressive what they were able to do. But I think it's this whole thing about sentiment too, John. It seems like everything that they talked about felt very, very positive. So when you've got a backlog of over $678 billion worth, I would say that's a pretty nice backlog, and it supports the growth into the future. So looking at all that and looking at how this goes, and the sentiment itself just being as positive as it is, this intelligence cloud Azure that we've talked about for many, many years now. I mean, that used to be something we talked about all the time. And then all of a sudden it's AI, it's data centers and everything else. But this is an amazing move. I mean, for what they are and how big they are for this stock to be doing what it's doing, John, it's well above those 52-week lows because they had struggled for a little while, but this has taken them out of that struggle, I'd say, pretty nicely.
Yep. When you're spending as much as they're spending without beating that horse any harder, you're going to see some people that aren't happy with that kind of CapEx spend. But again, it goes into the rearview mirror pretty quick, especially when you look at the kind of numbers they put up this time. All right, let's hit that Meta, Pete.
Yeah.
They've already hit it. I mean, it's responsible for over $100 billion in downside pressure because, of course, $55 times 2.4 billion shares, that's where we're getting that number. So you can see that the Microsoft move is 4 times bigger. So even if you negate 100 billion of the Microsoft move, you've still got 300 billion to the upside out of Microsoft, comparing it, of course, to the loss of over 100 billion in Meta. But basically, the earnings release, solid. Their revenue, solid. The company is going to be spending an awful lot of money. It might be the most money any company has ever spent, Pete, in a quarter or a year. And Zuckerberg is a madman because you and I can remember when he spent $12 billion on the metaverse and changed the name of the company from Facebook to Meta. Well, now he is spending multiples of that, probably 10 times that number every quarter, just to stay in the hyperscaler space. And some quarters it's paid off, but not this one.
Yeah, and when you look at it, John, they've got margin pressure. That's number one. Then they've got guidance that's not great. It's a little bit soft. That's not good ever. We talk about that every time we see somebody who's missed, and that's where they've whiffed. And it's really too bad that the spend is just unbelievable. And I think that there's a lot of different aspects to this whole thing. And because of that spend, by the way, now all of a sudden you look at that free cash flow and you're looking at that going, that might be slightly concerning as well. So are they spending? Yes, they're spending like they've never spent before. But can he pull out of this thing at some point? Maybe. But I'll tell you, it's going to take something to be able to get this thing back on track. And you could see by that chart that was put up there, it was already trailing down. This just added even more to that trail to the downside. So Meta's one of those where I think we keep an eye on it, a close eye on it, and want to see what happens from unusual options that might come into it. But that all being said, it's going to be very, very interesting, I think, going forward. And it might take a quarter or two for them to actually get themselves back into a position that they'd like to be in, which is a lot higher than they are right now.
Pete, when you imagine this, 55% increase in expenses.
And it was already high.
Yeah, and it was already, eye-wateringly high.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you throw 55% increase in expenses. Again, back to Rob Reiner. 25,000 in sides? Did they cure cancer? 55% increase in expenses? Did it cure cancer? The answer is no.
No.
It didn't. No matter what his sidekick said, they didn't cure cancer.
No.
All right, let's hit one more, Pete. SIMO, Silicone Motion Technology. Not silicon, silicone. They reported strong second quarter results. Net sales, 451 million. That's 32% increase. Those are amazing numbers when you hear that. And for these guys that basically have embedded controllers and things like that for solid state drives and all that sort of thing for computers, this is a big deal. And apparently enough to drive the stock up better than 24% so far, Pete.
Yeah, it's on a great run, John. Absolutely incredible run. You talked about the quarter over quarter. How about the year over year being up about 127%? So, on their sales, these guys have really done an amazing job. They've made a nice turn as well. Strong sales for automotive. Their earnings were blowout. I mean, you look around, you're trying to say, all right, so am I missing something on the negative side? I couldn't find anything that was negative, John. So that's why this stock is suddenly up 24%. It's trading. Last I looked, it was about close to 260, 261, something like that. A lot closer to that 52-week high than the 52-week low. And it's making a nice move in that direction. So yeah, this is one heck of a quarter. I mean, they did what they needed to do in a big way. So very, very impressed by what they were able to do. And the guidance was strong.
Yep. Certainly very, very strong. Well, let's do a little sports as we wind up into what is usually your weekend, Pete, and mine, because we'll be traveling sometime tomorrow.
Right.
Let's take a look at a video of Ohio State, because I thought you'd like this one, Pete, because everybody's got a price, so they say, but apparently Ohio State has a very high price. And I'm not just saying the $17 million that per year that JP Morgan's going to give them. When they saw that the JP Morgan Chase patch on their uniforms was going to be a certain color, they said, we don't care how much money you're giving us. We're not doing that. Take a listen to this.
And I said, absolutely not. We're not doing this.
Ohio State is cashing in. The Buckeyes' new partnership with JP Morgan Chase is reportedly worth nearly $17 million per year and includes jersey patches across all 36 varsity sports. But there was one non-negotiable. The logo wasn't going to be blue. Ryan Day reportedly shut that idea down immediately. Absolutely not. We're not doing this. Why? Because in Columbus, blue isn't just a color. It's Michigan. Instead, both Ohio State and Chase agreed they had no interest in putting a blue logo on a Buckeye uniform. Some traditions aren't for sale, not even for $17 million a year.
Then I saw the logo.
$17 million. And Pete, he was saying, we'll walk away. If you want that thing in blue, which is your corporate colors, God bless you, but we are not putting that on an Ohio State jersey.
My guess is it's red already.
Yep, it is.
Well, John, that brings us perfectly into something else. They are not the only ones in college football doing this, and they got 17 million bucks. That's a big number. Well, what if Notre Dame gets involved? And they are. And Notre Dame says, you know what? 18 million bucks for the patch on the jersey. after following up the 17 million that Ohio State, this is SoFi, and they're going after it, John. I mean, JP Morgan was with Ohio State. SoFi is over there with Notre Dame. I think it's really, really interesting to see. Now, some of the loyalists of Notre Dame are really ticked off about this whole thing, but they are. I mean, they're like, well,
grow up.
We got you. I'm with you. I'm with you. But they're pretty angry about it. They're like, we don't need the money. Why are we doing that or whatever? Well, maybe you do need the money. I mean, take in as much money as you can, I guess, or whatever. As long as it's the right color and all the rest of that kind of stuff, which makes it kind of a fun conversation. But I'll tell you what, I don't think we're done, John. I know these two have talked about the patches and everything, and that was something that was approved not long ago. I think it's something that we're going to see more and more and more, whether we like it or not. And I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I get it. People who have Nike as their, they got the swoosh and they've got this, that, and the other, if it's Adidas and all those kind of things. But this is just a big patch from somebody way outside of things. They aren't part of the football outfit. So now they are, I guess, because these patches have become something that is a heck of a nice chunk of money that they're going to have, right? I mean, what do you think about this whole thing?
Well, the Cubs, Pete, like Notre Dame, were famously not willing to do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It was Wrigley Field. People wanted to rename it. They wouldn't sell the naming rights. Now, with the new ownership in the last decade or so, are they willing to sell it? Nope, still known as Wrigley Field. And starting in 2007, the first money they took in, Pete, was from Under Armour. So they didn't rename the park, but they became a, quote, legacy partner of the Cubs. And that was in 2007. Now, basically, 2024 through 2026, Under Armour is not listed under major Wrigley Field or Cubs sponsorships anymore. They used to be on the outdoor or on the doors where the lawnmowers and things like that would come out of, Pete. But they're no more. Now, Nike is now the official on-field provider for major league teams. So you can kind of, including the Cubs, so you can kind of see how that might be a problem. But for the most part, as we have told you folks many times, they don't share. This is one of the few things that they do share. They don't share TV revenue.
Right.
The only time, so the Yes Network and the others that really benefit the Mets and the Yankees and probably some of the ones in Southern California, great. But what about Minneapolis? What about Cincinnati? What about a number of these teams in the smaller markets that don't have TV revenue? Eventually, they are not going to be able to compete. They just can't, because the tickets would have to be $500 a piece instead of something that would put butts in the seats, which is, $40, that kind of thing. Yeah. Without the TV money, Pete, this is going to be really hard on baseball, I think.
Yeah. Well, John, as far as football, going back to football, because I'll tell you what, now that these practices are started and everybody's all excited about it and they're getting after it right out of the gate, and there's been fights already in multiple different places, within the same team. Like some corner gets mad at a safety, at a wide receiver, and it's like, hey, man, you guys got to relax a little bit or whatever. Although I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of that. I used to fight all the time. But anyway, just the other day, John, you and I were talking about all these quarterbacks, right? All these quarterbacks, and we were talking about these teams. There's 4, 5, 6 teams that they don't even know who quarterback one is on their roster. Well, how about this for something that's pretty interesting, John? I was looking at this, Atlanta. So Atlanta was one of the names that we talked about. And we were saying, okay, well, we don't know. Is it Penix? Is it Tua? Well, yesterday, practice, I think number 1, maybe number 2, but I think it was number 1. Tua has a back issue. So that's a problem, right? So he's out for a while, not forever, but it's probably going to be something that's nagging on him all season would be my guess. Then you've got Penix, and Penix all of a sudden walks off because his ACL doesn't feel all that good that he had surgery on at the end of the year last year. So That's a little bit of a problem. So that's QB1 and QB2, however you can put it in whatever you want. Then they get decided, we're going to get rid of our third string quarterback, this kid Simeon. They released him. So
from Northwestern, I think, right?
Yep. Good player, but for whatever reason, they decided they're not going to stick with him. You and I talked about this kid not too many months ago, but there's a kid named Jack Strand. Now, Jack Strand is from Minnesota Moorhead, which is a Division II school all the way up damn near into Canada, right? Now, Jack is 6'5". He's 240 pounds. He's a 22-year-old kid who's extremely athletic. He's thrown for 13,000 yards in college. I know it's D2. I don't really care that much about that, though. They're playing real football, and they play, they play at a next level that's still very impressive. 126 touchdowns, John, in 42 games. This kid knows how to run with the football, knows how to throw with the football. By the way, his GPA, his grades at the university, 3.87. So smart, big, athletic, and these other guys are all hurt. He has a really, really interesting shot to get a little bit of playing time in there. They did sign Cooper Rush, but I find this whole thing, they needed another quarterback who's got legs, man. That's why I think they got rid of Simeon. They ended up getting Cooper Rush. And Cooper Rush has had a great career as this backup guy, right, who can come in and actually execute pretty well, I'd say. So that's why he's still doing it at age like 36 or 38 or something like that. I know he's in his 30s, mid-30s, I think. So anyway, John, I look at this whole thing. Do you think they're going to give Jack Strand an opportunity to really show what he's got? I agree. So what do you think? I mean, if he can get those receivers to buy into the fact that he is a damn good quarterback, forget that he's from D2. Who cares? If this kid can play the way he played, I think it could get kind of interesting down there in Atlanta, because has Tua really shown us a lot? Not really. Has Penix showed us he's pretty decent? He's a pretty decent quarterback, but the injuries are starting to stack up, and that's not good. Plus, he was one of those guys who, when he got out of college, he was already about 24, 25 years old, because he bounced around to so many schools, John. So I like this kid, Jack Strand. I think this could get kind of interesting down in Atlanta.
Yeah, I would agree. It's rare to find a guy that's 6'5", 245, that has the kind of numbers, like you said, 123 touchdowns or whatever. The guy's a beast. And you still have to put that ball in that little tiny box like that when the receiver's open. And if he can do that, which we know he can, then the question is, can he read defenses?
Yeah.
And I don't know how great Tua was at reading defenses.
Not very.
I think he was a very good pro quarterback, but I don't know how good he was at reading defenses, Pete. And I think, obviously the kid took a lot of shots. And, like we said off air before the show started, Billy Ray Smith, RIP.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that take too many hits, like Penix, unfortunately, like Tua, unfortunately. A lot of those guys, it's not just the physical, it's here. Do they rattle the brain enough to where they get that CTE? That's what ended up taking down Billy Ray Smith, Pete.
Yeah.
And great player for Lou Holtz at Arkansas. And then played for the Chargers, I think.
Yep.
Great player.
Yeah.
Dead. Early 60s. So, yeah, it's I think a big, strong quarterback like this, can he learn to read the defenses if those coaches are spending time with him? My answer is yes. He's got the talent. He could do it.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'd love to see a fair competition for him to get the opportunity, and it's going to be in front of him right now, because it's going to be he and Cooper for at least a couple of practices or more, maybe. Maybe they rest those other two, just hoping that they can recover from whatever injuries they've got, right? Back injury, knee, after you did a full ACL. So it could get pretty interesting, John. And if that kid can step up, all of a sudden they can get rid of a lot of money on that roster by getting rid of one or two of those guys in front of him. It could get damned interesting down there in Atlanta. But anyway, a lot of fun, the early part of the NFL, and we'll see what's going on. I've got plans to be with the Vikings, and they're with Baltimore, John, when they get together. I think it's the 12th of August. So I was asked to come on over there and do a few things. So that'll be pretty fun, I think, into the future. A couple weeks away.
Cool. Well, enjoy, Pete. That's going to be special.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all of you guys. You guys are special to us. We'll be putting out some information shortly about what's on the screen behind me. That's Circa Casino and their sports book. We've got a deal that we're going to be announcing very soon, my friends. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, Pete, what time are we back on Monday?
1 p.m. Eastern time, John. We're going to be here. We're always on time, and we're looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to the weekend as well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Bang. See you then, folks.